Good day, America. Good day, and welcome to another episode of Truth to Freedom, the podcast, where this is real talk for real people. I'm one half of the podcast team, James Parker, along with my other brother, Mr. Quentin Williams. How you doing, sir?
Doing well. How you doing?
Doing good, sir. Looking forward to this. So, America, we're gonna dive in because we got it's one subject we're gonna talk about, but we want to make sure that we get everything in. So we're gonna dive in because we're not gonna talk politics today. Well, it's about politics, but we're not gonna talk politics. We're gonna talk something that is actually dear to both our hearts, and that's the homeless. It's a issue. It's really a major issue. It's just that it takes a back seat to everything else because mainstream media and your left and right parties make everything else an issue that takes it off the homeless issue, which that should have been to the forefront years ago. If you're in any major city, it's a problem. I mean, to have people literally living on the side of the streets in tents, all lined up and down the street, there's a problem. In not California, in Nevada, Las Vegas, they did a report on the home. They're living in the storm drain. They're living in the storm drains. So it's like, I mean, I don't get it. And then they have their own tent cities, and then California, the same thing. All the major cities have a homeless issue that can be rectified. So my brother Quentin was doing some research or whatever. He came across something about a program that apparently America came up with it and designed it or whatever, but never implemented it or don't want to implement it. Who knows? We'll talk about it. But anyway, the country Finland had the program, found out about the program, and decided to indoctrinate the program and use the program and fulfill the program. And guess what? It works. Finland doesn't have a homeless problem, not compared to what we have. They cleaned it up and whatnot. So, Quentin, why don't you speak on it? Because you're the one that brought it to our attention.
Well, I feel like the policy is called housing first policy, and I feel like above it being a compassionate approach, I feel like it's a common sense one. What they say is that housing is a right, and they give people permanent housing, and they feel like that solving homelessness is the first issue, solving many other problems. Because if you think about it, we talk about mental health a lot right now, and how do you deal with depression and anxiety if you're homeless? That is a cause for depression and anxiety.
Yep.
So
yeah, definitely. And the video you had sent, I was just in awe. I was just in awe that I was in awe and actually happy to see that a country put their politics aside and actually wanted to help these people. And so we got two videos. So America, stay with us. Don't click through this. Stay with us. Get informed. We're going to talk about it. If you got questions or whatever, leave them in the comments or you send an email. Our email isn't going to be in the description when you see this. When this airs, like I said, you can still leave a comment even though it's not live. It's pre-recorded, but you can leave a comment in the description. But stay with us through this whole thing because I think more people need to even know that there is a solution that can fix it. And not only that, we need to start focusing on the stuff that's really important. Okay. I mean, we got so much stuff thrown out here about what they want you to get upset about. But just like Quentin said, the decent, the dignity of people, the decent wanting to put these people in a safe spot. Because the thing is, even the media is bad. They done demonize homelessness. It used to be a compassionate, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be straight up with you. I was one that in the beginning I felt bad for homelessness, and I used to give them money and everything. If they stand on a corner, and I would give them money, and I try to do what I can. And then I forget which network. I don't know if it was NBC or Dateline. Anyway, one of them did a undercover investigation on the homeless, and so unfortunately, they just happened to pick a group of homeless people that they weren't homeless. They were scamming, basically. But that report, everybody just blanket all the homelessness. And so people will tell you that, well, if you can stand out on the corner then you can work. And I fell for it. And for a while, I stopped giving because I thought the same thing. I said, well, shoot, they getting this money and going home again, not doing an in-depth research on the whole situation. And so it wasn't until I really got involved with the homeless, and at our church we served the homeless, and at one point we was actually going out to some of the encampments that they have around in the area. And if you really want to know about homelessness, sit down and talk to a homeless. Sit down and talk to a homeless person. I guarantee you'll get a whole new perspective, because I did. I got a whole new perspective, and it goes back to where you don't know a person's situation. In other words, they say, well, you don't know until you walk a mile in my shoes, and when it comes to homelessness, they are exactly right. You'd be surprised that are homeless, and for what reason, how they got out there at no fault of their own. And we did find a couple that they like being out there. For whatever reason, they checked out of society. They like being out there. They don't want to be caught up in the rat race. And this is what they do. And that's fine. That's what they're doing. But there's some people that don't want to be out there. And we have a really good chunk of population of homeless people that are they're the working homeless. They're working. They go to work every day, but they don't make enough to afford housing, which goes back to affordable housing. When rent is $1,400 a month, unless you plan on piling five people up into an apartment, it's kind of hard to afford a place to stay. So we're gonna watch two videos. We're gonna watch this first one. It's gonna go over the program in Finland, and listen to what they say, and just watch and listen, and then we're gonna talk about it, and then we're gonna watch another video after that. So that's why I said stay with us through the whole thing. Quinn, you got anything you want to add before we start watching?
Nope, okay. I don't.
All right, so y'all just give me a second here while I try to, I guess, share my video if I don't mess it up. All right, so, this is the first one. Oh, and just some background. So actually, the two videos watching is actually, if you're on YouTube, it's called Invisible People. It's about homelessness. The guy that started this YouTube channel was homeless himself. And when he got back on his feet, he made it his mission to go around. He goes all over the United States, and in this case, go all over the world. But he goes and he interviews homeless people, and he sits down and talks to them. If you ever get a chance, go on YouTube. The channel is Invisible People, and we'll even put a link to it in our description. But you need to listen to some of the interviews. Again, it gives you a whole different perspective when you actually talk to him one-on-one. But this guy, he's really good. He actually went over to Finland and met the people that design and work and all this. So it's a very good thing. It's about 20 minutes. So we're going to watch the whole thing. I ain't going to talk no more. We're going to watch it. Let me hit
the homeless crisis in our country has gone from bad to worse.
As the crisis deepens, so has the criminalization of homelessness.
RV after RV parked here because people have nowhere else to go.
New data shows that homelessness in the United States is at an all-time high.
But there's one country that has redefined how nations can tackle homelessness. Finland is one of the only countries in the world to significantly decrease homelessness. Invisible People traveled to Helsinki to investigate.
I was walking areas in the city. If it was America, you would have seen countless homeless people.
With the leaders who made it happen.
The worse the situation is, the more important it is that you at least start a change.
Citizens living in housing first units.
Is your life better now in housing?
I don't wanna lie, it's not.
And everything is better when I live here.
And the staff that supports them.
A person needs a home, so the other stuff can happen.
You can never get so low that we will not be beside you.
Housing First comes from USA.
We changed the systems completely. We went all in with the Housing First.
And at the same time, this kind of camps disappeared.
In America, people don't want to give housing to homeless people. What would you say to them?
She would say that it saved her life and it will save others' lives too. And so that's why Housing First is so great, because otherwise she might be dead.
How has her life changed in housing?
She doesn't use drugs anymore, and that's quite big.
Töitä.
Work.
Oma rytmi.
There's a rhythm in life.
Normaali elämä.
Normal life, which is what she wanted.
What's the favorite part of your apartment?
Sänky. Seuraava on keittiö.
Bed and the kitchen.
What is homelessness like in Finland?
Pahalta.
Very bad.
Pelottaa.
And it was very scary.
Sitten täällä on kylmät talvet.
Winters are cold.
Pitkiä.
And they are long.
Homeless as hell in Finland because you're real cold, real wet.
Not very nice, but where is it nice?
1990s, we still have 20,000 homeless people. And of course, at some point, there was a real struggle that there were many people sleeping on the streets. And then, you know, because the winters are really harsh here in Finland, they would also die on the streets. So I think that was a really the wake-up call that we need to do something and change the policies quite slowly. And then we get the rapid phase when we start the Housing First 2008.
That's when they went all in on Housing First. They renovated almost all of the shelters into Housing First buildings to give homeless people their own individual apartments. They also built more affordable housing across the country, and it seems to have paid off.
In 5 years, we both created the program and halved the long-term homelessness in Finland.
Homelessness in Finland has changed quite dramatically since 2008, for example, in the city of Helsinki, which is the capital city. You will not see tents, sleeping bags or rough sleepers whatsoever. We want to end homelessness or we want to end rough sleeping. I think, you know, some people would have laughed at us that, you know, that's not possible ever, but, you know, I think we have proved them wrong.
We spent days on our own in Helsinki looking for homeless people, and we couldn't find them. It was surreal. So, are there really none left? Juha told us this isn't a visible phenomenon, so we needed to go inside to find them.
So welcome to our organization, No Fixed Abode. You entered to our day center Vepa, where people who are sleeping rough, they can come here. And this is kind of living room. We serve every day a warm meal, mainly the peer support and also the professional guidance how to find apartment. The Housing First started in our organization and we are still running the first Housing First unit, Sallikoti, here in Finland.
How does this connect with the city services?
Our functions are separated from the city services. We do lots of collaboration with the city. People who are doing the outreach work come here in regular basis and we share information and kind of like what is going on with people who are sleeping rough.
Onko kaikki ihan ok? Ei mitään hätää, ei tarvitse meidän takia nousta. Hello, I'm doing street work in streets of Helsinki. I want to invite you to see outreach work. So people who are walking their dogs and walking around, if they find tents, they maybe make a call. Sometimes we find a new one, get informed for a new place. Yeah, it's really under a bridge. Of course, it's so different before 2010 because there was so much people rough sleeping in this kind of tent camps. 2010 and 2013 have built many new places and same time this kind of camps disappeared.
Housing First is an idea where people have their own rental contracts and own homes and they also get support in the housing. Earlier it was like that you had to kind of like earn to get a house, you had to like rehabilitate from abuse problems and things like that.
But the Finnish people let one important truth guide their policy.
It's kind of impossible to rehabilitate from the streets, so a person needs a home, so the other stuff can happen after that. Everyone needs a home. We try to make sure that everyone gets that opportunity.
And that sounds incredible, but we wondered, how can Finland possibly keep up with the demand? Aren't more people falling into homelessness every day there, too? So we asked Finland's former housing minister, who spearheaded the entire project.
The housing market do not work perfectly. We need also to regulate part of the markets, not the whole, not at all. And the way we have done it has been in Helsinki that we have built affordable housing where both the federal state and the city subsidizes this construction actually quite a lot.
So this is one of our buildings. constructed by Y Foundation, Y-säätiö, and it's meant for people with low income. We have built this one actually together with the Living Music Association, which means that there is certain parts of the apartments are reserved for low-income rock musicians. There is a rehearsal space for the musicians and those kind of things. So the city of Helsinki has decided that there has to be at least 25% affordable housing. So people with different backgrounds, different income levels, they share the same playgrounds and same services. And I'm really proud that the city of Helsinki has decided to do that.
So affordable housing is dedicated to reduce homelessness and give low-income people a chance to get a flat even in the cities. But then that is not the way you can tackle the severe homelessness, and there you need different kind of methods. We then had the housing first concept.
We are in a housing unit Pessi right now. Our tenants who live in this floor, they can make food together, and they also take care of the floor cleaning and such kind of things.
Just moved in. They come to my penthouse. That's my koti.
It's his home.
This is my home.
How long was he sleeping rough?
He left his step-parents when he was 15, and he was living in a hallway.
How long has he been in housing?
13 years.
13 years in housing. Is this his longest time in housing?
This 15 years is the longest period ever.
How has his life changed in housing?
No. His life is more orderly right now because he doesn't use constantly drugs. He's doing substitute treatment for opiates.
Or how did you survive homelessness, especially in the cold?
He knows how to open doors without a key. He had some kind of like tool, so he knew how to go the hallway.
So he slept in doorways?
Yeah.
In 1985, in the city of Helsinki, there was around 2,000 shelter beds, and now the number is 200. There is still rooms that you share with 2 or 3 different people and so on. If the solution for you is scattered housing or housing first unit, you are not waiting in a shelter or on the streets. Then the time that you need to wait that apartment and support to come available, you will have access to temporary accommodation, which means that you have a room of your own and then you share the kitchen and bathroom with someone else.
For a year I had to go for the night's emergency housing. Then when I contacted social services on this matter, it didn't take long to get here. Own room with the lock.
But even with his own room, he's still considered homeless. He'll stay there until placed in his own apartment with a signed lease. Only then is he no longer homeless. And this process generally seems to take months, not years like in the US.
So even though the social benefit system costs a lot of money, it's still cheaper than having people sleep on the streets in a tent or having to go them through with the shelter and temporary accommodation over and over again and using the extremely expensive emergency services in the health sector or social sector or in the justice department sector. And then of course it's the right thing to do for the people to make sure that everyone has a home of their own.
So even with the low number of shelter beds, there is actually space in shelters to be used as emergency shelter, which makes the outreach team's job a bit easier, less frustrating. This empowers them as boots on the ground to play a larger role in improving the problem as well.
We went out with an outreach team where they talk about areas of housing first that need to be improved.
We are doing outreach work, but also we try to change the system. Yeah, social reporting and this kind of structural social work. When we are writing the social report, we are sending straight to the people who are making decisions. So politicians get our social reporting same time that our boss is getting it. Media is getting same time that our boss is getting it. No one can influence what we are writing in.
People who have experienced homelessness, they are the best advocacy workers. They are the best to explaining to decision makers, to the politicians, what they should do.
What happens when politicians change and stop supporting housing first?
Basically, we shouldn't need to be worried about the issue, but then again, if you follow the conversation at the moment in the newspapers, it might be a little bit uncertain. But then again, I think we have a written commitment from the new government to be in this and take care of the issue. So let's hope that happens also.
I think it was important from the very beginning that the program was actually led by a center-right politician like me. We needed the 10 biggest cities in Finland to be on board, and those 10 cities, they had different kind of political majorities. We explained each and every mayor and a lot of city councillors and so on, it is the interest of everyone that we are able to reduce the homelessness. Explained how it makes cities safer, how it makes cities more pleasant, and that in the long run you even save taxpayers' money. So you could say that we had all the main parties in Finland somehow involved from the beginning, which of course then creates a better basis that these programs and these concepts will be respected even in the future.
So what would you tell Americans that don't support Housing First? They say, oh, that's great for them, but we can't do it here.
So we are a very small country, and you are a big country, you have a lot of money. So if you want, you can really do that. Make the change. And Housing First comes from USA.
You guys took the idea and ran with it. And we have more resources and obviously more homelessness, but we're not doing it as good as you. And if we did, we would be reducing homelessness.
Yeah, if you want, you can do it.
In the US, Housing First is doable. Trying to think about why we want to build affordable housing and how that connects with the Housing First. And at the end of the day, if you don't care about people and humanity, then I think most people will care about the finance things. So it's always much cheaper to house people and have the right support for people than that they are sleeping on the streets, on the tents, going through the shelters, and then this kind of revolving door effect. It's totally doable. There's need to be a lot of courage to do different kind of decisions regarding affordable housing and Housing First, but also different kind of prevention solutions. So when people are struggling with their mortgage or their rents, so that there would be different services to help them so that they don't end up being homeless altogether. So combining those things, prevention, affordable social housing and Housing First, miracles can happen.
It's been a great relief. It's been so long since I had a place to go home.
Is your life better now in housing?
And, I don't wanna lie, it's not. I should stop doing drugs and get back to work.
When did you start using?
About 6-7 years ago.
How old are you?
22 now. The biggest reason for starting to use intravenous drugs was because my best friend killed himself.
Residents, they have history of years of abuse problems or mental health problems or homelessness. Of course, giving them an apartment, it doesn't fix anything in a months or even years. It takes a long time to learn to trust that okay, this is really my home and it is permanent. I don't have to move out soon.
It's normally when I go to sleep, I just throw stuff.
Messy apartment is better than the streets. It's a place where they can feel safe. It's a place where they have a door they can lock, that they can regulate who comes in. They can sleep there in peace.
Anybody that has a very messy room, they also have a very messy mind. And when you lose hope and when you are very depressed, you don't have much energy. And sometimes it's also because you've never learned how to keep a tidy home. Nobody never taught you really. Maybe you've been in some kind of an institution living your childhood. You've never seen what a home looks like, what you do at home. How do you clean your kitchen table? How do you clean your toilet? Should you do it every week? Why should you do it? How to do it? So there's many ways we can help Because if you have been getting these problems for 10 years, how can they be solved in 1 week or 2 weeks? We have to be patient. You can never get so low that we will not be beside you. We will walk with you.
The problems of Housing First do not overshadow its impact. This young man is no longer homeless, and this young man is going into treatment.
Everybody's talking about Housing First, Housing First. Yeah. It's important, but it's more than Housing First.
It is. It is. It's also support that comes together with housing. So we don't leave a person alone with apartment.
And their definition of support is impressive. Every building we visited had jobs and activities for its residents. We're talking recording studios, gardens, gyms, outdoor fireplaces, finished saunas. It's clear they're thinking less about housing numbers and more about improving the lives of each individual person living there.
We have to understand that Housing First is not housing only.
If I have problem, here is stuff and I can call them. Hey, I have little not good feelings. They help me. If I have something paper, what I don't understand, I can go there and say, hey, I don't know what I do in this. They help me. We have work here 4 days in the week, Monday or Thursday, 4 hours. We give little money.
So how long have you lived here?
Almost 2 years. Almost 2 years.
You like it?
Yeah, it's very, very, very good. If I not live here, I drink more and more. And everything is better when I live here.
People saying a lot. They used to drink because there's nothing. They were alone. They don't have really nothing to do. And when they're here, the community is helping and they have this little work here and of course the staff who can support them to be sober.
So she was using drugs when she was homeless?
Joo, niin oli.
She was like so scared she had to be under intoxication in order to cope with that situation. So that's why she used drugs and that's why she doesn't use them anymore.
Tänne kun mä muutin,
She needed no treatment because when she got her own home and own key and then she started working here, it changed her life and she said that she just left the drugs after that by her own will.
What kind of drugs?
Kaikkea.
Everything. That's her answer.
See this? That is a Housing First building. Almost 100 formerly homeless people because it's not a shelter. Many of them are still substance users, but they're using inside. And families are walking by, children playing, safe, smiling. That's how you end homelessness.
We're in downtown Helsinki, area called Töölö, which is a quite wealthy neighborhood. Ruusulankatu housing unit is 10 years old. The people who work in that housing unit are doing a lot of work regarding that issue, the NIMBY effect. Then we also have our own specialist worker. She organizes meetings with the tenants and with the neighbors.
It is better to place these units downtown and in those places where you have a lot of people instead of those places where you have less of them. Because in downtown Helsinki, downtown cities, people are used to all kind of people. And actually, you don't notice these units as easily as you certainly do in other neighborhoods. But from the very beginning, we also understood that we treated these people as human beings, not as homelessness people.
You lose hope when you are on the street, and it means that you die sooner. That's just a fact. It's quite hard to survive on the street for decades. And so if you get a home, you get hope and you start taking care of your life. So you can become part of the society again, because when you are homeless, it feels like it that you are not part of the society anymore, that you are invisible and you are like an outcast.
I lived 10 years on the street. Really upsetting, and I felt that I was like on the bottom of society. It's a priority that if you have a place to be, like even a place to stay, or if you have an apartment, It's like you are human. Without that, you are not.
Okay, so yeah, I wouldn't call this a house full of drug addicts. I would call this a house full of people who have problems with substance abusing. I believe that no one should be on the streets. Like it's not good for anyone. It's not good for them, and it's not good for the society. Like who benefits from that?
And we used to think that those people need to get rid of alcohol in order to be able to live in a flat.
In that time, they went long rehabs. And after that, when they collapsed, they lost their homes. And that's not a very good thing as we can see it. And that's why we think that our Housing First program is the best way to make people believe that they can live with a little of support, not losing their homes if they are using drugs or drinking alcohol or have some other problems in life. With some people it might be really difficult for helping them in the housing support because they might be extremely violent, and in some cases they have to be just signed out, and then they continue queuing to the next place. And
now that it's been already in work for over 10 years, I think there's a lot of experience already how it's working or what's not working. And mainly it's that we have to talk with the tenants all the time. We have to have meetings and we have to talk with them every day. And when we hear each other, we also have respect for each other and some kind of an appreciation. And that's how we change things that need to be changed.
In America, people don't want to give housing to homeless. What would you say to them?
She would say that it saved her life and it will save others' lives too. And so that's why Housing First is so great, because otherwise she might be dead.
But you could say that the worse the situation is, the more important it is that you at least start a change reducing the homelessness.
It is a human right. It is a basic right. Everybody should have a home.
I'm sure that everyone can do Housing First. It is actually, you could say that it's human being first. In all democracies all around the world, you see homelessness people in the streets. In Finland, in Helsinki, you see less because of the Housing First. This is a safer and more pleasant city, and it's also a better city for visitors, for tourists, and also a better city for example, foreign direct investments, knowing that this is a clean, safe, pleasant, well-organized city. Putting housing first, and that can be scaled, that can be copied anywhere in the world.
I've been in 10 different countries, over 300 cities doing this. When I arrived in Helsinki, it was hard to even to put words the feeling because I didn't see a homeless person. In America, we're often selfish. People are driven by what's in it for them. I mean, we can't even get affordable health care for everybody. So how are we going to change culture so that we can have affordable housing for everybody? We know how to end homelessness. We've known for a long time. This week, we've been able to see how Housing First implemented at scale can solve homelessness. But the question remains, will Americans do what we need to do to fix the affordable housing crisis and to start providing homeless people with the housing and the support services they need?
All right, America, you heard it. That was in depth, and I hope y'all watch it again. Quentin, I'll turn it over to you, sir. I know you wrote notes and whatever. I'll comment later. What's your takeaway?
It's I like that. It's a humanitarian and a compassionate approach. You know, I argue for stuff like that all the time in American society. It makes sense to me to keep these people off the street and give them somewhere to go. Like the one guy, the young guy who said that he started using drugs because his best friend killed him.
Right.
Like that's not a character a character defect or flaw. It was like something traumatic happened to him, and this is how he coped. I that's kind of sad though. I feel like and they have support for him. They got the people that come talk to him, and like they said, they got jobs and things for people in the building. They're not just sitting around.
Right.
Actually trying to help them grow and get on their feet.
Yeah, it's sad, like you said, and I think that's a key point there. A lot of people that end up homeless, their circumstances, and depending on how long they're homeless, a lot of them that's when they pick up their substance abuse, whether it be drugs or alcohol. They weren't a addict before, they weren't an alcoholic before, but like you said, traumatic circumstances, whatever that is, being homeless is a traumatic circumstance. And and just like she said, after you lose hope, what else is there left? Now you want to be numb. You want the pain to go away. And so you seek out drugs and alcohol. And because you do this all day, it keeps you numb and hopefully put you in some kind of state of mind that you're not aware that you're homeless until you sober back up, and then you realize you're homeless, and then you go back and do it again. It's just a vicious cycle. But through all those interviews, I hope y'all picked up on it. We need compassion. America's not compassionate no more. They used to be to an extent. But now, just like he said, we worry about is self. And for us to have as many homeless people that we have in America, and we can fix it. And they started simple. They took the homeless shelter and refurbished those into units. And if you notice, they didn't have really nothing fancy. They just had it was a studio apartment, looked like to me, but it was theirs. And it makes sense. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Let's get them off the street. Get them off the street. We can take it from there, but let's get them off the street so they'll feel safe, so they feel like they're part of society, like she said. Make them feel like a human being again. Because I can't imagine. I just can't imagine the feelings that you have. You're homeless. You have to maybe beg or do whatever for your next meal. For the working homeless, you go to work, you smile, you put on a good face, and you come to work every day, and your coworkers don't even know that when it's all said and done, you driving over to the YMCA or the local gym so you can take a shower, and then you got to find a place to park, sleep in your car until the next day. And you do this day in and day out, and nobody knows your secret but you. What a burden that's on you of doing that. And I can't even imagine the depression that might come over you doing this, and the depression for those that are just living homeless. I just can't believe. But see, this is the thing about America. This is why we don't need politicians no more. You're gonna have people talking about why should we invest that kind of money, because it's gonna cost some money. But then think about all the money we don't wasted doing everything else that hasn't gone to anything. We wasted money. We wasted money on the border. We wasted money on all these wars that we've been in. We wasted billions, trillions of dollars on nothing. At least now, if you spend that kind of money on the homeless initiative, at least you'll see something for your return. And then, don't you think, Quentin, you'll see something back?
I mean, I agree. I feel like a lot of the stuff we have privatized and for profit is not good. It doesn't help society as a whole. That guy, what was his position? He was, I just know, I heard him say he was a center right politician. What is he, like mayor of the city or something?
Oh, the guy with the thing on his nose? Yeah, he was the if I remember right, he was the mayor of Finland. Not Finland, Helsinki. He was the mayor of Helsinki, and then he was also the director of that program they were doing.
So he said that affordable housing buildings are largely subsidized by the state and the city.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cheaper to house them than it is to have them on the street. I want to point out, though, that he said that he was a center-right politician. Now, this is world standard. This is outside of America. America has its own definition for what they want to call themselves politically, which doesn't match the world. This man is a center-right politician who's advocating for free housing. We don't have any politicians in America that are center right who's going to tell you that we need to get homeless people out the street. But that just goes to show you how, I mean, we've come up with our own definitions and they're skewed. The closest thing we have is a Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, people like them who aren't, who fall more in line with this center right guy. But here in America, we call them far left. It shows just how silly it is.
It's very silly because ain't that the job of these people that we elect to help us in our situations that we have? We have a situation, a homeless situation that has gotten really out of control. It's really bad. And let me tell y'all, America, so downtown where we're at, we was actually feeding the homeless at one of the county programs, and I'm gonna talk about that after we watch that other video. But next door to it was the men's shelter, so we had to go over there because we took what we didn't use over at the facility. We took over to the men's shelter, and I'm gonna tell you, man, it's like going into a prison. If you ever watch them on TV, how they go into a prison, it's the same way going into a men's shelter. It's like going into a prison. You got all these doors you got to go through. They got to wind you down because of people bringing in weapons and stuff. And then when you look at where they have to sleep because of the overpopulation of homelessness, they just got bunk beds on top of bunk beds on top of bunk beds. I mean, I didn't believe it. I'm like, I'd be paranoid to live up in there. I mean, the beds are just packed in there. So it ain't but a whole lot of room to just walk around. And here you got to come in here and leave your stuff and go take a shower and all. It's just sad. It's just sad. And it's a problem that we can fix. I don't get it. But America, I hope y'all watch this. I hope y'all take this all in. And I hope y'all start getting involved at your area, wherever you at, and start getting these people to recognize that we can fix this problem. We can fix it. We can do something right for a change. Because we ain't done nothing right in years as Americans. We just go off and do all this other stuff. And now we can come up on another presidential election, and we arguing about some of the stupidest things that I could ever think. And I'm so sick of Kamala Harris and all her nonsense about, we're optimistic people and all this other stuff. Ain't got nothing to do with nothing. And I heard it this morning too, Quentin. They said it again. They said, why are we going over the same problems when y'all been in office for the last 4 years? Y'all been in office for the last 4 years. So how's all these issues, if y'all been in office the last 4 years, why ain't y'all fix it? Why ain't y'all fix it?
They don't have any real solutions.
No, because it's all about the money and the power. Like you said, these corporations are backing these people. They're funding them with all this money, and now you have to please them with whatever they want. That's what it boils down to. Whatever they want, they done gave you the money, and so now you got to figure out some kind of way to compensate them for them backing you. You're bought. All y'all are bought. That's what's wrong. All y'all are bought, from the NRA, the AARP, the Heritage Foundation, all these big corporations and organizations and groups that got the kind of money to put behind y'all. Y'all are bought. It ain't all of y'all, so don't get mad at me. But a hit dog will holler. So if it bothers you, maybe you bought. I don't know. So, all right. So let's go to this next video. So this next one is actually showing you that we can do it in America. It's done in Minnesota. What was the name of the town again, Quentin?
It was Henpen.
Okay. So, and this is the guy that did the video for the invisible people that did the video over there in Finland. He's doing this one as well, because he came back over here and found out that they actually were doing this same program, same initiative, the same way they're doing it here. They're doing it in this one town, and you're going to see the results. So it can be done here. People just going to have to want to do it. So we're going to, here we go.
Hennepin County. What are they doing differently?
It's called Hennepin County, and they're ending homelessness.
Where are we?
We're in North Minneapolis in my little studio apartment. This is where I live. This is where I would have been put out of. I would have had nowhere else to go if ARS wouldn't have stepped in. I come home from work, there's an eviction notice on the door, and there's also a paper from the state of Minnesota saying I need to go to court. I didn't know what to do, so I called ARS. They told me they're gonna handle it. They handled the sheriff department. They handled the landlord, and they got me the place back. They got me the place back.
For a lot of people like Jarrell, that is their first exposure to the court process. So my job as an attorney is to bridge that gap between this very scary process and the possibility of losing your home. And we were able to negotiate a settlement that worked for both parties.
If they wouldn't have stepped in, I would definitely be homeless. I would be out on the street with everything you see in here. You know, probably a little less, probably a lot less. You know, everything that fit in that little suitcase.
And this is a perfect example of one critical strategy in Hennepin's system developed to end homelessness. Last year, we learned how Finland is doing it, but many believe their success can't be replicated in the States. Hennepin is working hard to prove that theory wrong.
Having a home now has changed my life completely.
Now we have a place right here that's directly into the community where the people are. We're knocking down the barriers to get them into housing, you know?
We have to listen as deeply as possible to those who are experiencing our decisions and those who are implementing our decisions.
Our goal is to disrupt pathways to homelessness.
A community in the United States of America that is reducing homelessness.
In 2021, 1,384 people exited homelessness to permanent housing. In 2023, we saw 2,171 people exit homelessness to permanent housing. So a 57% increase the rate at which people who were literally living in shelters or on the streets were moving into their own apartments, into their own homes.
We can solve homelessness in our own country.
It's how to get my mind right and get off that stuff, man.
Amidst a growing crisis where bipartisan efforts have made it illegal to sleep outside, Hennepin has set an immensely more humane standard for how even densely populated urban areas in the U.S. can solve this crisis.
Having four walls around you and having a spot to go, that does make you want to get sober. It pushes you to better your life.
It's a lot better than what it was packing people in a space like sardines. But when you actually have your own place and you don't feel that hopelessness anymore, I don't really feel the need at all to actually use.
We are in this together with you. We will walk alongside with you.
And I feel like content now and happy. I'm happy, so I don't want to ruin that.
They're using shockingly simple, county-wide solutions. And once you understand what this looks like and how it happened in Hennepin, you can understand how it will work where you live too.
I'm going home, y'all. When I first started at the county, it was 2015. We didn't have really any of the infrastructure or systems work that we have right now. And we didn't have any diversion. So people, when they called, it was like, what shelter do you need to go to? Rather than, what is your situation? How can we help you? What do you need? And so by putting that diversion program at the very, very front of our system, we were able to add a whole other layer of services and support that also benefited our shelter system because we had less people flowing into shelter, which allowed us to make our capacity work better for people and just avoid that trauma of entering shelter.
We know that people who are in a traumatic situation will call every phone number they can think of to get the help they need. One of the most critical things about preventing homelessness is allowing people to access rent assistance readily and easily. One of our primary tenets in housing stability homeless prevention is to ensure that there's one place for people to call.
They call that inbox. It's fielded every day by me and other navigators. We help them sign up for those programs to help them get that rental assistance so we can prevent a possible eviction.
The centralized system that allows us to administer rental assistance, each one of those funding sources represents a very rigid set of eligibility criteria and other sort of conditions in which someone might or may not be eligible. By braiding these sources together, we can actually focus on the residents' needs versus the funding source's constraints to put together a package of assistance that works for them. Our goal is to disrupt pathways to homelessness, intervene at critical points of risk, and ensure that folks have access to short, medium, and long-term resources to sustain their housing.
I like that, disrupt.
Yeah.
Disrupt the path to homelessness.
We've also focused on ensuring that every low-income household in Hennepin County has access to legal representation. Any household going through the eviction process. That's through a partnership with our adult representation services.
Because once a person is homeless, I mean, the ability for that person to obtain further housing after that is greatly diminished. You would have an eviction action on your record potentially, and that is going to cause difficulty in finding additional housing because future landlords are going to look up that eviction and more than likely not rent to that person. Once you are facing a cycle of homelessness, I mean, it's devastating to have to be out on the streets.
When we were talking to one of the lawyers of the Adult Representation Services, he told us the story about Brian. When we walked in, Brian was wearing a mask, and he says, I'm wearing it because I had most of my jaw removed. Brian has cancer and other health issues, and if it wasn't for eviction prevention programs, he would be outside homeless.
I've had to have constant surgery and in the hospital 6 months or more. Had no opportunity to work. I was gonna have an issue with rent. Your heart drops because I've been homeless before. I've lived on the street. I've been there before. I've done what you've had to do to survive in the street, and it's horrendous. Who do you go for these things when you're in this crisis? I felt like my back was against the wall, and very grateful that they helped me pay 2 months of rent, which was good enough for me to keep working my job, not worry about, I gotta pay thousands of dollars that I don't have already. If I didn't get that information, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be outside. If you look around, this isn't the Four Seasons Hotel, but it's also not the Four Seasons outside. To have a safe spot and a safe place, you don't even understand how good that is.
Being able to remain in his home took one additional thing off of his plate. Not having to face homelessness was a tremendous help in his battle with cancer and really just gave him a new lease on life, that he didn't have to worry about facing a horrible disease and also having to face being out on the street. I'm not aware of any other program in the United States that provides these services on a countywide or a government level. I mean, a lot of folks are in places that they are struggling to afford. I mean, one car repair, one electric bill away are a lot of tenants from not being able to pay their rent every month.
The critical sort of point of impact is reaching households at the right moment before an eviction proceeding results in a loss of housing.
You can sit down here. There was a death in my family, so I was away from home and worked for a couple months taking care of my family, doing what I had to do. All extra money was just going to my grandma's bills, food on the table. I just fell behind on my bills at the end of the day.
It was incredible hearing these success stories, but we wondered, how can the county justify the cost? Isn't this process expensive?
Diversion is cost effective. We can divert someone often in just one phone call. 80% of the people we divert never return. And so that's a phone call at staff time and maybe a small amount of financial assistance, which then saves money for our system and for taxpayers.
So Hennepin County has been working with Community Solutions for some time now. In the last year, they have invested in our community in several different ways. So they have created gains in staff time, staff capacity, as well as supported us with a $400,000 flexible fund pool that we're able to use to break down housing barriers for people experiencing homelessness. So that can be paying for rental applications, deposits, move-in costs, as well as paying for back rent to move people into housing quickly, efficiently, and reduce the strain on the system.
We actually invested as a county almost 40% of the pandemic recovery funds we received into homelessness and housing. And those were discretionary funds that could have gone to any county functions. But this is where we felt we could have the most beneficial impact for our community, both immediately and long term. A lot of that went into capital development to provide deeply, deeply affordable housing options for people. And we were investing operational funding. We've seen how those investments have really accelerated the rate at which people move into housing in our community. We took something of a leap of faith in those investments, knowing that we could do a lot of good while the funding was there, and we would need to use that time also to build the case for ongoing funding. We would need to show the efficiency, the effectiveness, the equity of investing in this way and how it benefits the community as a whole.
We operate in this world of resource scarcity, and when you have people on the street who are experiencing an immediate crisis, who are at tremendous risk, and they're in front of you, we have to devote a big chunk of our resources to solve that housing crisis. But we've learned over time that this is a long-term issue if we don't get more upstream. And I think that's really where the focus on prevention has emerged.
If we go back to 2016, people queuing up outside the shelters each night, every night on a first-come, first-served basis at the major shelters. Each day there was this uncertainty for a lot of folks as to where they would be able to stay. And then go now to one of those shelters, the building has transformed, the staffing levels are higher, there are fewer people staying there, but those that are staying there get a much better quality of service.
I've been walking around downtown for a couple of days. My work isn't scientific, but I often walk the same areas with a couple years gap. I'm not seeing the homelessness that you see in other urban areas.
Every single funding cycle, every single budget presentation, every time we add staff or expand partners, we have to listen as deeply as possible to those who are experiencing our decisions and those who are implementing our decisions. And that really is at the center of the ways in which Hennepin's broader housing and shelter policies have strengthened and evolved over a couple decades.
We started the Lived Experience Advisory Group. We also have them involved in our hiring process at Hennepin County. They're involved in the final interviews. We also now at Hennepin, because of this, have folks with lived experience working at Hennepin County.
When we are at the table rather than on the menu, we change the dynamic of every single thing that's going on because we offer a different type of vocabulary, a different type of seeing and experiencing.
How did this happen that you guys are empowered to make decisions? Because everybody else, they get a lived experience committee, they meet once a month, and nothing changes.
So I interview people that are going to be hired in housing stability. And at least I feel like the people that I work with here understand the value of what we do. You only have that perspective if you've lived that experience.
Pretty much everything I do really comes from what I hear from people with lived experience. So if I hear that, something's going wrong in shelter, or they're not getting connected to a housing case manager, or they, aren't feeling supported, then I always follow back up with those programs that we fund to make sure it can get righted, or at least we're on the path of making those improvements.
They developed a shelter bill of rights in 2019 with 10 items that they wanted to see change in the shelters. And we've worked on all of these items with them, we've built them into contracts, but when we asked them, of these 10, which is the biggest priority for you, it was case management to help us get out of shelter and into permanent housing. So that's where we as a county have really doubled down, both with funding for our non-profit partners to add that capacity, but also building out our own teams to go into shelters, to go into encampments and other unsheltered settings and work towards housing with people. That really didn't exist before the pandemic. We looked at one of our shelter programs. They had a 1:80 case management ratio. Now 75% are open 24/7, so people can stay during the day, can work with case managers.
So that's family shelters, youth shelters, single shelters. We have daytime and overnight drop-in centers.
So people can enter shelter kind of one of two ways. They can either, enter themselves by calling the Hennepin Shelter Hotline, which is that diversion program, and getting connected to the Adult Shelter Connect, who will make a bed reservation. Or they can be connected through working with a street outreach team who will help kind of get them into a shelter. You can be housed either directly from the streets or you could be housed directly from shelter. We are heading to our largest shelter. They serve about 230 people in this space. Before COVID, I think there was about 400 or 500 people in that shelter at one time. So we've made quite a few investments just based on people with lived experiences feedback that we need more humane living spaces.
This renovated shelter can accommodate 239 people per night. They have a safe bay overnight area for about 60 people in bunk bed dorm style rooms, and they also have rooms where people can stay for extended periods with just a few roommates. The shelter provides laundry, hygiene products, meals, and everyone has access to a caseworker.
The space behind you is one of the common spaces. This is a smaller room, lockers, and everybody has their own little outlets. This is a bigger room.
It's a lot better than what it was packing people in a space like sardines.
Shelters are great at getting people off the streets so that they do not die outside, and shelters play a valuable role in a community-wide system if they're housing focused. People cannot remain on these cots and get better.
When it comes to surviving out on the street, wondering where you're going to get your next meal, where you're going to sleep, where you're going to bathe and all that, and being out on the street, yeah, it It was a struggle. It was hard. Just being here was a life-changing experience because I met the right person and she ended up getting me into the apartment that I am in now. And I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm doing much better.
Often, homeless services expects homeless people to travel to wherever their office is. The Hennepin County outreach team sets up a tent right at a homeless encampment.
Our team comes out to encampments several times a week. We meet with residents here to work on housing. We do assessments, we do connections to other resources, assistance with obtaining their food benefits or their cash benefits. We're kind of the gateway to getting some services.
We have a working relationship with our clients on the streets. You can get a person into housing, but what type of support do we have to keep them? That's the critical piece.
Well, I hear retention is a big part of what the county is doing.
Is you gonna go over there?
I got my appointment tomorrow.
Homeless to Housing team, which is now over 58 people. They have housed 917 people since November of 2021. We are rocking at a 94% retention rate. It's not just about finding the housing. It's about helping people transition into housing, having it become their home, feel like they have ownership of it, that they feel comfortable and proud of it. And that's how we create sustainability, not just giving people the keys and being like, next. So it's helping people get there. It is complicated. You need to get an ID, you need to call people, you need a phone, you need to show up to appointments. So having workers join with them, be able to be in encampments, get them signed up for benefits in real time. Say, I will be here 30 minutes early because I know you like to sleep in, so I'll knock on your tent and then we'll go to your housing appointment. We are in this together with you. We will walk alongside with you. It's a lot of navigation, but it works and they deserve it. And I believe that's how we end encampment.
But Hennepin County doesn't stop at encampment outreach. They also embed social workers in additional locations where they're most needed.
I don't know where you guys hang out. Have you ever seen Streets to Housing, any of the other outreach teams up there? Don, I'm gonna update your coordinated entry. You already have a couple entries. So most of the outreach that we do is I'll do coordinated entry assessments, which are the housing assessments, and then I also will check on the status because many of the people that are sleeping on the train, they've already done a coordinated entry, but they don't have a phone or email, so it's good to look them up to see if they have a housing referral. 5 years ago, it was like 7 or 8 people on a team, and now it's 5 times that. Hi. Hello, I'm Sarah. How are you? Is Pam helping you out? Good.
And then I'll be at the Franklin Library tomorrow between 12:30 and 3:30.
Okay. All right.
Let's sit down and do a housing assessment.
I will be there.
Awesome.
Can't wait to meet you, Kat.
So I'll go to my office and then I'll print it off because it does have like a lot of like the details in there. So this is the social work office at the library. So I'm on the homeless access team with the county, and then I'm here full time. Basically provide like first come, first serve, drop-in services. Library staff can only do so much and they have different training. And so having a social worker here means that then I can have access to this county-wide system to be able to connect them maybe to their case manager that library staff wouldn't have access to, or more of like a mental health substance use lens to figure out, okay, like this is a mental health situation that's going on, let's get you connected to the crisis residence, or let's get you screened or detox.
Opioid addiction it's a tough one to get off of. I started using opiates. I was around 12, 13. I'm 33 now, so I've been around opiates probably my whole life. My mother, she was a opiate addict. She used heroin all through the 90s. I mean, I remember being in diapers and seeing her knotted out on a toilet, and like it was just a normal thing for me to be around people that were slumped out. I've been to probably like 3 or 4 treatment centers in my life. Like if they take you from tents and put you in a treatment, and you do a 28-day program or a 90-day program, you get out, I mean, you're still right back out on the streets. You have nowhere to go, and you see all the old people and you start using again, and that's a trigger for anybody. I recently got clean off fentanyl. Having a place to go, and I'm comfortable with closing my eyes and going to sleep and sleeping for hours and not worrying about my stuff getting taken or having 4 walls around you and having a spot to go. That does make you want to get sober. It pushes you to better your life.
Now we have a place right here that's directly into the community where the people are. When they're ready, they just walk in.
You know, all the barriers, that's what we're doing. We're knocking down the barriers to get them into housing, you know?
You can't have a conversation about homelessness in Minnesota without highlighting the indigenous homelessness crisis.
Indigenous people are always affected the most by whether it's drug addiction, whether it's homelessness, whether it's gang violence, shootings. We're 1.4% of the state, but we're always like 8 to 10% of like all crimes being committed against. And I believe it's due to the traumas, the generational traumas that were inflicted upon our people. See, back in the day when it was like back in the 80s and 90s, when it was just the Native brothers on the Ave drinking, this used to be their area right here alongside the roadway right here. Thought it was pretty cool that they actually got the site where they're at, you know what I mean, and built on it, you know, so.
Well, that's a big thing, so everybody, like, they don't want homeless housing near them, but you gotta build the homeless housing where homeless people are for them to go in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, they definitely want to be still in their own communities. They're here for a reason.
Yeah.
Especially our Native people. This is our drop-in center. We have 25 recliners. They got showers in here. We feed them every night. This is open from 7 at night to 7 in the morning. And the nighttime team, they're on the streets finding people in the moment, you know, whether it's cold out, whatever, hungry, pick them up and they bring them here.
The newest building, Anishinaabe 3, is for people with severe substance use, opiates and other strong addictions. Everyone that comes in, we meet them where they're at, and we have case managers on site.
When I was in active addiction out here in the streets, I'm not the same person that you're meeting here today. I would be, literally, you would be like, that guy has severe mental health issues. And also when I see that in the street right now, I know what I'm seeing, you know, because I was also in that very predicament, like your mind's so clouded and you have different thoughts going through your head that are not normal. I think it's vital to have low barrier shelters, housing, really meeting our people where they're at.
So we're at Avivo Village. It's a 100 tiny dwelling unit shelter. It's our lowest barrier. People are able to kind of come and go as they please. There's no curfew.
Why is it important to have low barrier shelters?
Yeah, it's critical because people, when they're experiencing their housing crisis, are going through other things besides just not having a house. So having too many rules or restrictions around what people can do or are able to do might prevent them from accessing shelter where there are a lot of resources.
Permanent supportive housing or rapid rehousing or whatever housing of your choosing, being in here helps facilitate that process. It's harder to do that from the street, right? So because you're mobile, you're moving everywhere. Well, you have an address here. Other advocates know where to find you. Case managers know where to find you. People can look for you. People can follow up with you. So being in here gives you a great advantage. It is a low barrier. The piece that we do want to encourage you to do is that if you are using, that you use with someone else so that you're safe. So high fidelity harm reduction means that we're going to both support you in your home, give you the tools to work through those issues, and walk at the pace that you want to walk at, right? So it's not something that you're forced to do when you come here. We're going to treat you like a human being and help you. We've now housed over 200 people.
When my mom died, somehow the house got foreclosed, and then my sister, my nieces, everybody who lived there had to move. I was out on the streets in the encampments. I think about 8 years I've been outside. I just finally got up in here, which was, whew, I could get some sleep, and it wasn't cold. I had heat, had a bed and a blanket and a pillow, and then I got housing, and woohoo! Housing was good. This place helped me get to where I'm at.
So my work is focused on ending chronic homelessness by December of 2025. So our work is informed by data pulled directly from HMIS, the Homeless Management Information System. Well, we can't solve the problem if we can't see the problem. Working with our community partners to add data directly into HMIS creates a stronger, more robust homelessness response system with the information that we need to solve the problem. We treat every person as an individual, so we are creating a cohesive, dynamic BNL or by name list and pulls information from HMIS around where they are, who they're working with, and what sort of resources would be most appropriate for them. We have seen greater outflow, the number of people each month that are exiting to a permanent housing destination. Since we started using this practice, one major milestone that we've seen is that our numbers of people experiencing chronic homelessness dipped below 300 in December of 2023 for the first time since 2017.
Where do 300 people go? The answer is 300 different places, right? In 2020, our unsheltered point in time count was 642 people. In 2023, our unsheltered point in time count was 469 people. When over that same time frame, we see cities, in many ways similar to ours, seeing 77%, even 90% increases. It's only by addressing those two forces of how many people are entering homelessness, how many people are exiting homelessness, that we can ensure we're not heading in that direction that other communities have faced. Housing first, of course, doesn't mean housing only. What it means is get people into housing as quickly as possible without prerequisites, because we know that whatever other challenges people are struggling with, they will be better able to address them in housing.
30 years ago, when I started Hennepin County, literally landlords would use the term hit and run for the social workers who would place people into housing. They got them into housing, job done. The world has changed. We found that many of the folks got into housing that end up back in homelessness. So it was no longer just about getting housing, it was about keeping housing. And that's where housing stability comes in, is ensuring that there's tenancy supports to help people through.
At Hennepin County, we're really proud of the integration between our housing stability group and our housing finance group. A couple of years ago, we created our supportive housing strategy. We'd heard from developers how hard it was for them to pull together the financing packages they needed without assurance that the service dollars would be following them. So a really brilliant part of that my human services colleagues do is they underwrite the services package while I'm underwriting the financing package.
The buckets of capital development, operations, and services, they have to work together.
When a person goes from the streets after living for years in a park or under a bridge, and then they're placed into housing, it's a whole bunch of new challenges. Retention is so important. Hennepin County is providing support, including community, so that people thrive in housing.
In 2017, we started tracking everyone experiencing chronic homelessness in our community. So more than 1,700 have moved out of homelessness into housing. And on average, each of them had been experiencing homelessness for almost 4 years when we moved them into housing. And even with this group, the success rate, the retention rate, that kind of non-recurring rate of not coming back into homelessness has held steady at around 93%. Supportive housing works and person-centered housing solutions work.
Welcome to Catholic Charities Endeavors Residence. We're a supportive housing program. This project began in 2019 when we secured funding to rehab the building. It was a nursing home, and we remodeled it. We reopened in the summer of 2022. It's a unique public-private partnership with Hennepin County. We also partner with Hennepin County on this site to provide respite care, which is shelter for up to 30 people who are recovering from surgery and can't go back to a regular shelter, or who were staying outside when they went in for surgery. So this allows the nurses on site to provide care and gives them a safe place to be while they recuperate. The majority of our units in this building are single room occupancy, which means that people have a bed, a dresser, a closet, and then they also have a refrigerator and a sink. Then we have shared kitchen spaces on the floor. We do have some efficiencies in the building. Those are all Section 8 units, so that is for folks who have that 30% of the income voucher, and they are all on the 6th and 5th floors of the building.
When I started doing drugs, stealing cigarettes from my daddy and marijuana and all that back when I was like 14. But the hard drugs come in, I say when I was like 18, the heroin and the cocaine.
Have you done treatment before?
This is my second time doing treatment. I did treatment in Illinois for approximately 3 months. It said with no stability when I got it. There was no support up there in the system. So it just like, have a nice day, see you again if you come back. You know, I went to the homeless shelter, did time in the homeless shelter months. I did slept in Tent City. I did buses and trains. This went on for approximately some years. It was great help. It's a treatment program called the Park Avenue. And that's what all started for me over there, you know, got me off some stuff and drugs. And I moved here ever since. This was 18 months ago. 40 years, so I was what, 15, 16, almost 40 years.
It took housing to get you sober.
Man, it took housing to get my mind right and get off that stuff, man. First time I put that key in the door, I cried. I actually shed a tear. I said, man, this is my first apartment ever in my life. I'm 49 years old at the time I moved in, so it was real emotional for me.
This is an SRO, single room occupancy model. It's something that we need to multiply for not just getting homeless people off the streets, but also for people with low income who might be entering into homelessness. The SRO model was very popular many years ago, but it's something that we need to bring back. And here they have an old nursing home which they remodeled into SROs, and you just heard treatment with housing has the best outcomes.
We try to give them the necessary tools so that they could be successful in maintaining their current housing, because they wouldn't be able to be successful in outside housing if they don't get the necessary tools here first. We try to educate them on rental guidelines, how to manage the general upkeep of their living quarters. We try to teach them how to communicate with the utility companies so that they won't go into default and get a bad credit marking. We try to educate them in every aspect of everyday living, what they need to know.
Here we are at 925 Studios. That is 100% designated for people who are exiting homelessness. We put this in the space of is housing for people with extremely low incomes who are exiting out of homelessness, but who don't need ongoing support services or subsidies to afford the unit. It's a really important part of our continuum that allows people to flow out of the homeless shelters and into housing. We call this SRO housing because that's a general word for very affordable and independent housing, even though in these units in particular, each tenant has their own kitchenette that was built back when this project was a hotel.
I'm going home, y'all. I was in an abusive relationship, and I didn't see any other way out. I felt unsafe and I felt in danger, so I left my husband. And then I came to the shelter. When I first got there, I was nervous because I didn't know what to expect, because I never lived in a shelter before ever in my life. So it was kind of scary, but at the same token, I felt safe. The shelter was a start for me, but I am so blessed to have my own place. Here we are. If it wasn't for this low income place that I'm living in, with the income that I have being disabled, I'm on Social Security disability, spinal surgeries, this low rent, and utilities and everything paid, I would still be struggling. When I moved in, the bed was here, this chair, this table, the dresser, these lamps, the microwave, the refrigerator, and the little burner. Trying to make it home, just little by little. My favorite part is having my own place, my own space, my own peace of mind. Because where I was, I couldn't rest. And I wanted to live, so that's why I moved. But I chose to live. I'm just starting over, but happily.
I wasn't stable, my home wasn't stable, my mother wasn't stable, so I was pretty much in the streets and started surviving on my own by dealing drugs. I had access to narcotics, so eventually I tried it. I went from being homeless as a child because of my mother and, the lack of support, to having my own, and once I started using narcotics, I ended up homeless without nothing.
What was it like when you first walked through the door here?
It's giving me a chance to progress again, affordable. That's the key, it was affordable, so it allowed me to have my own dwelling and be in a pretty safe environment, a decent, safe environment for a reasonable amount. For my income, for what I earn. Thank you. Thank you.
This building used to be a hotel, and we actually purchased this back in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. There are also several other projects across the city. It's important to us to have that full inventory of units with shared bathrooms, units with bathrooms and kitchenettes right inside of them, and then units of every shape and size where they have case management provided on site.
I don't know, usually I have my son here, so I usually chasing him around here. To be able to provide a place for him also to feel safe and to feel like he has a place where it's designated as daddy's home now. It was absolutely huge for him too, as much as it was for me. And I've been homeless since 2017. I had a small moving company, and one morning it all changed. I lost everything, my leg, my everything, my house. And this program saved my life.
How long did it take you from meeting Pam to where you were actually living here?
It was actually almost overwhelmingly fast how quick it went from hopelessness, without a leg, no coat, to Being housed, it was a matter of, I think, 3 weeks. It was almost impossible to live like that every day. It was like I didn't have any sense of dignity. Thankfully, Pam was there to assist me along the way. Having a home now, through this program, having support like Pam, I have a therapist now. Having all these resources has changed my life completely. Living off of 203 cash, 30% of that goes towards my rent, and then I have a food portion, I think around $300 in food stamps. It can be pretty tough. I'm making it happen though. I'm grateful.
If you sort of assess the overall landscape of homelessness risk in Hennepin County, I think again it points to affordable housing access. We have a shortage of 35,000 affordable housing units for our lowest income residents. Of the 100,000 folks that are at 30% or lower of area median income, more than half cannot afford their housing. They typically have less than $10,000 in annual income. So there's a clear connection between income, housing instability, and affordable housing inventory. And I think historically, we've heard from residents that their experience accessing assistance in the time of crisis has felt very fragmented, even dehumanizing. Many have described it as the social service runaround, where they're going individually to one provider or one entry point or county department, and each individual entity maybe has some limited amount of resources, but they're disjointed from others. And the burden is placed on residents to figure out where to go and when to go and what they're eligible for. So we're working on shifting that burden from residents to our system by bringing together all of our resources in a central and sort of coordinated fashion.
We're excited to be here to show you an incredible adaptive reuse. The church sold their property to a developer to create affordable housing, but the church still is existing here. They still worship here on Sunday mornings. The parishioners put the chairs out and still have their services. And the rest of the time, you can tell this is just a nice little shared community space. They already had a food shelf. They were already a place where people would come and hang out. There was a daycare here in the building. It was such a community institution. The best way to honor that was really to have the entire parcel be dedicated to affordable housing with amazing community space within it. All 41 of the units in this full project are affordable to households with incomes below 30% of the area median income, and a good number of them are also set aside for households exiting directly from homelessness.
If you didn't have affordable housing, where would you be?
I'd be probably hitting the shelter. I live on Social Security disability. Relying on the fixed income leaves me only so many options while still being able to afford food. I've always relied on public transportation. So if I go to the suburbs, it completely cuts me off from the world.
But every city and town in America seems to struggle with the NIMBYs. Doesn't Hennepin County?
We do have some not in my backyard. For families that are concerned about new housing coming into their neighborhood that might house people who are exiting directly out of homelessness. There's a lot of concern and fear about the unknown, about change, about, what does that really mean to be a person who's experiencing homelessness or exiting homelessness. What we see is that when these projects are actually built and folks move in, the neighbors tend to say, well, that looks just like the rest of our neighborhood already. It looks like these individuals are people who maybe lived next door to me anyway. I just didn't know it because they weren't in a building that was meant for people experiencing homelessness. It does make the neighborhood better. It brings in more richness. Then all of a sudden we have folks attending the neighborhood meeting who are bringing in a new perspective to what the neighborhood needs.
It changes things. Is scattered site housing. That's a model where homeless people, now formerly homeless people, are placed in housing within the community. We're visiting Melissa, who went from homelessness to homeless shelter, now to home.
My room is messy, I'm so sorry. So I was homeless for about half a year. I was out bouncing around on the street. I was in a relationship and then we broke up, so that's what really put me out in the streets. I was using when I was in the shelter here and there, but now that I'm in my own house, I feel different and I don't want to fail. So I know that in order for me not to fail, I have to change things my behaviors are things that would actually be the reason to fail. So I stopped that completely because I don't want to lose this. I don't want to ever go back to where I was. So I know that those are the steps I have to take in order to keep what I have. It's hard. But when you actually have your own place and you don't feel that hopelessness anymore, I don't really feel the need at all to actually use. I don't feel even like the urge to, because I have all of this and I feel like content now and happy. I'm happy, so I don't want to ruin that.
Most people want housing. I think that's like a big misconception, that people don't want housing.
Our focus as a human services department is get people into housing. That's the answer to homelessness. Criminalization, anything that makes it harder to get people into housing only sets us back.
What would you say to politicians that are pushing for a punitive response instead of investing in long-term investments?
Punishment is just not very practical, and it's not economically viable.
Full stop.
It's just, it doesn't achieve the outcome. It is not less expensive. I kind of struggle with generating logic that would support that position. Criminalizing humans that have nowhere to lay their head at night is not compassionate to me. It is not logical to me. It also does not happen to make economic sense.
The public always says they don't need housing, they need treatment. But treatment plus housing is what they need.
There's millions of people who are using drugs in housing. There's millions of people who are alcoholics in housing. There's millions of people with mental health in housing right now. So those aren't reasons why people can't have the dignity and support and safety of housing.
The quality of our interventions and programs is based off of the quality of our data, based off of the quality of the questions, and the quality of relationships we have to the people who are answering those questions.
The consensus that we hear amongst our policymakers is we don't want to go backwards. We see the impact of what we have done. We see how it's changed lives. We see how it's put us on a different path.
Large cities can end chronic homelessness with a focus on data, community investment, and focusing on incremental gains over a period of time. It is possible to work with a very large community or a small community.
One of the things that we find ourselves reiterating again and again and again, for good reason, as we brief policymakers, as we make the case in public hearings, is people that we engage with experiencing homelessness want housing. Our experience is people can be housed, and our experience is that people can be successful in housing.
I'm blown away. We just spent a week here in Hennepin County. We learned and saw firsthand how a community-wide system can reduce homelessness here in America. Nothing is perfect, but they are actually moving forward and literally reducing homelessness while other communities are just seeing homelessness grow. Eviction prevention, affordable housing, shelters, outreach, permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, SROs, and getting people who can transition out of permanent supportive housing back into society. We've seen it all this week. It all needs to work together. Coordination is the biggest part. We need to leverage politicians and the nonprofits in our community to work together. Wherever you live, you need to speak up because you've seen it can be done, but we need to reduce homelessness in every community. That's where your voice matters. If you do not want to see homeless encampment, Hennepin County validates the only permanent solution to reducing homelessness is solving homelessness.
Got that right, buddy. Look, America, this is going to be a battle because I can tell you where the problem's going to come in at. The big corporations, the housing corporations, they're not going to want you to be buying up these properties and turn them into affordable housing. That's where your problem is. I really don't think the people in the areas are going to give you a lot of pushback. You're going to have some. You got some people that's got their butt up on their shoulder. But what they're basing off of is what they see when they're living out on the street. They see these people living out on the streets and how they live out on the street, and they might be under drug influence and things of that nature. And that's what you see. And you think that that's just going to translate over into the building. But they just showed you that with putting them in homes and giving them shelter and also support fixes a lot of that stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not stupid. I'm pretty sure they ran into a few that they probably had to kick out the program. I'm pretty sure because there are some people that's just not reachable. But I'm pretty sure it's a small percentage. So don't look at that and think that, oh, everybody's going to be helped. Let's just be honest. Everybody's not going to be helped.
But like they said, we're going to meet you where you're at, and we're going to be alongside of you. We're just not going to put you in a new apartment and then just leave you to figure it out for yourself. We're going to be with you to get you the help, the assistance, and we'll be with you there and beyond. Whatever you need, we're there. And that's what it's all about. It's about caring for one. That's what it's about. It's about the compassion that everybody should want everybody to have the same thing. You live in a house, you live in shelter, you should want everybody else to have the same. Everybody not going to be on the same level that you are, but at least they're safe. I mean, I don't know how many of those people probably that their first night of safety, knowing that they can sleep and the doors closed and had to worry about nobody robbing them or raping them or whatever the case might be. Because what happens when you put people in a situation like that, they become desperate. And when they become desperate, they're liable to do anything to survive. That's just human nature. A lot of them probably wouldn't have done the things that they've done, but they were at their wits' end. They didn't know what to do. And so they had to do things that they probably wouldn't have done if they were off the streets. But once you hit them streets, you got to survive, which means whatever by any means necessary. But you just showed that they just showed you that we can take care of homelessness. The problem's going to be politicians and big business, big housing. These people they ain't gonna want you to be buying up all these different buildings and doing what you're doing because that's gonna take money out their pocket. What you think, Quinn?
No, I agree. There's nothing they can do if the city owns these buildings because they just can't take them from the city. The city has to sell it to them. So, because I know here in Durham, they built a new police station a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so the old one, they hadn't demolished it yet, but they had a contract about what they were going to do with it. They had two companies, and I think there was a company out of Chicago who wanted to build more high rises, and then there was another company who wanted to put in affordable housing. It's the city's decision. They get to choose where it goes. Unfortunately, here they sold it to the company who was just going to put more high rises up, and not the other company. But we have say so with the politicians. We can vote them out. If you start, you get people, you create just like how they created the organization MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers.
Yeah.
We can create organizations, get people together. It's just like doing a PTA meeting. You get people together in their community and you put pressure on these politicians. And, if they don't do what they're supposed to do come campaign season, or election season, you start campaigning. You show, other options. You show what this person has done that did not help the community, and you just go out and you spread the word. Vote them out. Get somebody else in the city council.
Yeah, that's what it's going to take. And this goes back to what we were saying before, not to bring politics into it, but it is part of it. But like we said before, if you want a seat at the table, then you got to make sure that your vote is going to the person that it needs to go to. You just can't give it to a group, and that's any group, from Democrats, Republicans, and any of these other groups that solicit your vote or tell you that we're supporting this candidate, and you just blindly support because the group that you're attached to says this is support. Okay, and you just support them, and they don't mean you any good and not going to do anything for you or your community. And so you need to hold on to your vote, and you need to make sure that your vote is going towards someone that's going to make a difference and give you a seat at the table. That's the only way this is going to work. But as long as y'all keep following these people like blind sheep, we're not going to get anything done. Now, the two black groups. Yeah, I'm going to talk about y'all. Those women that got together, the AKAs and all them other ones, and then Roland Martin and all his cronies, they done got together and raised all this money. They raised all that money to give to Kamala's campaign. And that money, that could have been good money to the good to go to a housing, Salvation Army, anything. Or they could have took that money and bought property and built affordable homes. You want to come together and do something that's worthwhile, that's what y'all should have did. But no, y'all foolishness, y'all coming on TV talking about we got to keep that man out and all this other stuff. Really? Why? Y'all think, what's Campbell going to do for y'all? What do y'all think? Just, if you're telling me that's the reason why I shouldn't vote for a person, you're foolish. You're foolish. We need to support this candidate because we want to keep the other candidate out. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to vote for Cornel West. Whatever. I mean, if that's the case, I'm not gonna vote for her. I'm gonna vote for Cornel West or Bernie Sanders or whoever that's outside of that. If I'm gonna do that to keep him out, I'm not gonna vote her in for what? She ain't gonna do me no good. I'm just gonna vote. I'm gonna vote foolishness to keep foolishness out. Really? Is that what I'm gonna do? All y'all wasted time and effort to raise all that money. That money is now gone to the Democratic Party to wherever. Who knows where it went? I'm sure the numbers show it going to the party, but I'm pretty sure by now it done distributed to wherever it's supposed to go. And if it goes in some people's pockets, who knows? We'll never know. We'll never know. Ain't like they're gonna audit it and we're gonna see where all the results is. We'll never know. We don't never know where all that money go. They collect billions of dollars from contributors and campaigns and all this stuff. Don't know where that money's going. But we need to wake up, America, and that's why we started this. We want y'all to have another perspective. Y'all need to make sure that your vote count and that you have a seat at the table that's going to really make change that we need to see. Because I tell you up here in Raleigh, I'm going to tell you what they did to what you would consider low-income people that lived in the project. There was 2 projects here in Raleigh. One was Chavis Heights, and the other one I can't remember. Is back there off of P Street and Blunt Street. Well, they told those people that we were going to level these housings and we're going to rebuild and you can come back, but you have to move out now while we do whatever. Knowing that those people were not going to be able to move back in there because if you ever saw the restrictions to move back into those places once they built them, those people that was living there don't meet the requirements to move back in. Everybody has to be working. You can't have nobody over a certain age at home, all kind of crazy stuff. And so they did that to Chavis Heights. They moved all those people out of Chavis Heights and they weren't able to come back. So I don't know where they went. Then you had a housing project on Raleigh Boulevard that was boarded up for a long time. I don't know what happened. I don't know why they never did anything with it. I guess they moved the people out and it stayed boarded up for a long time. Well, I just happened to go by there not too long ago. Man, they done tore it down and put up those $1,500 a month apartment. I mean, they tore it down and stuck them apartments up there. So now you just, disfranchise more people out of the community because those people that live in that community can't pay no $1,400 a month. But this is what we mean, America. Y'all got to wake up. Y'all got to wake up and start really paying attention to what's going on. We can fix the homeless community. We can fix the homeless problem. It just and matter of fact, it's a win-win. Not only can you fix the homeless problem, you also create jobs because you're going to need more people to facilitate the things that they're going to need. You're going to need people. You ain't gonna be able to do it with a staff of 10. You're gonna need more than 10 people sitting in the office trying to monitor all that homelessness stuff going on and putting them in buildings and following up and giving them treatment. You're gonna need more than 10 people. So it also creates jobs. And these are people that actually care. I know they do because you couldn't put nobody in that job that didn't care because they wouldn't last long. These people cared about humanity. They cared about another human being, and so that's why they do what they do. Because I can't even imagine every day you going out there setting up a tent out there in the heat, in the cold, and trying to help these people. You got to love what you do. You got to love humanity. So, and just what they were saying before, I wanted to bring this up that I told you. So I pulled the resource for housing crisis and homelessness here in Wake County. And so, of course, it all sounds good. And of course, they say sometimes it can be difficult to locate places that can provide the assistance you are looking for. But below is a list of services and providers. We recommend calling the location before you go to make sure that there have been no services or schedule changes. And then it gives a list of things to call. They actually got a coordinator entry assessment site to call. If you're experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming unhoused, start with the coordinator entry assessment and visit and access site. Click the link below. Okay, what if these people ain't got a computer? I don't see no number to call. They said click the link below. Anyway, I brought that up because this was so Oak City Cares is the Wake County answer to the homeless problem. And they got 1, 2, 3. It looked like they got 3 actual sites. And then they got one at some kind of ministry. And then they got a walk-in service on women. Well, that's right next to the one. That's actually the same one as it's on Wilmington Street. So I think that's the men's shelter. Anyway, Oak City Cares. So, and at Oak City Care facilities, they have showers. You can wash your clothes. They feed you. They provide services. I give it to them because we've been out there to serve meals at the one over there on Wilmington. So they're providing services. But when you talk to sometimes you gotta go on the workroom floor. When you go talk to these homeless people, we asked them when we was going to some of the camps. We asked them. I said, "Well, do y'all utilize Oak City services? They provide a lot of resources for the homeless. Do y'all provide it?" And every one of them said, "Yeah, we went out there, but they're very intrusive. They ask a whole lot of questions about nothing, and most of them just was like they just to use them. They'll go to church or other community services or the Salvation Army, but they say the county one just is wrapped up in too much bureaucratic stuff. It's not really trying to help you. It's just asking a whole lot of questions. Then you come to find out that you don't even qualify for any assistance. So they don't do it. But I guarantee you too, a lot of the problem is they don't have enough staffing. I guarantee you ask Oak City people that work with, they don't have enough staffing to handle the fluctuation of the homeless population that needs help. So if you got 10 people in the office trying to handle 400 homeless people, it ain't gonna work. They just gonna be another. They're gonna take the information, throw it in the inbox, and that's it. And hopefully it'll come out. If not, now then you just get lost in the mix. So we talk to homeless people, and they're like they don't really care. They'll go down there and eat, but as far as trying to get any assistance from them, they don't feel that they really truly are going to help them or will help them. Now, have they helped people? I'm pretty sure they have. I'm pretty sure some people have gotten some, but I don't think it hits anywhere on the level, of what we just saw, because that was very impressive. That really was. Quentin, I was just impressed. I'm sitting here like in awe, like, man, that's dedication. Yeah. That's dedication for what they do. I don't know. What you got out of it?
Same thing. It's just that, they care. It's a humane way of organizing society, and I'm pretty sure once they get one issue under control, they're gonna keep going. It's gonna snowball as long as nobody gets in their way. These are people who, as the Native American guy was saying, and now he's on the committee or in the job or the organization and whatnot. But these are people who've also struggled, so they know what it feels like. And so they're going out and they're helping other people to get over their issues and to get up and get on their. So they really care what they're doing.
Downtown Raleigh. I think what was the name? It was a company downtown Dillon, some kind of warehouse down there. Really was big back in, and they ended up selling the building or whatever. And I don't know if anybody's in that building now, but that would definitely be a good building to refurbish because it was huge. It sat back there. Back on the other side of downtown, Dillon's. I'm pretty sure somebody bought it by now. They probably done tore it down and put up condos. I'm not sure. But that building, when they finally went out of business or closed or whatever, that building there would have been perfect to go in and refurbish, put in units to help get these people off the street. That would have been a great building because it was huge. But like you said, it's up to the city. The city the one make decisions on who gets what. They know what inventory they got. But again, it's whoever got the biggest pockets to feed them is where this stuff is going. Because now they're talking about moving Red Hat somewhere else. So what are they going to do with the land where Red Hat is now?
Right.
And there's still pockets of area in downtown Raleigh they can do something. Because that's like the rescue mission, the Durham rescue mission. Years ago, that hotel is down on
Avondale.
There you go. Right there off the interstate. That hotel was it was just a pit. Drugs, prostitution. They was always having some issue. The city finally got fed up and made that guy I guess they did. I don't know how they got rid, but he had to sell it or he had to do something. The city ended up getting it. And then the city sold it to the Durham Rescue Mission. And so the Durham Rescue Mission turned it into what they were talking about, units where, you get them off the street, whatever.
Yep.
So again, it can be done. It's whether they want to do it or not. It can be done. The resources are there. The resources are there. The money's there. It's just a matter of the politicians wanting to push it forward because they can't. You know why? Because they're bought. They're bought. That's why they can't extend their hand and say, yeah, that was a great idea and putting them forward. Because they know the people that's backing them ain't gonna stand for it. Because that's taking money out their pocket. I'm just being real with you. I mean, am I wrong, Quentin? Tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. Not wrong at all.
But for those that stayed with us, thank you. This was long, but I mean, this was information, you might not even have listened to or even saw. So hopefully you'll share this with other people so that you can get it out there and let people know what's really going on. That there is a solution to the homeless problem. And we can fix our problem. Not just the homeless problem, a whole lot of our problems, we can fix them. From the border, our fuel issues with fuel, all that stuff that they keep bringing up, the fentanyl and all that other crap, all that can be fixed. But they don't want it fixed because it's an issue that they can bring up come election time. And if we're stupid enough to fall for it, guess what? They get our vote and it keeps them in power and they keep doing the same thing over and over again. I don't know. Any last words, Quentin?
Nope. Other than people organize together to get what their community actually needs.
Yeah. I mean, be like HOA. Just come together and you can demand whatever you want. Because you become a block of votes, really, is what happened. And they want your vote. And when you start talking about voting people out, especially, and that's where it starts at. Quentin, you brought up a good point. That's where it starts at the local level, city council, school board. You start there. Hold them people accountable. Get them out. City managers, all them people. Start there, and then you work your way up. Because I guarantee you, the school board, you vote them people out and get some people that know what's going on. See something different with the school. Right now, you keep voting them same people in. They don't care about the school system with Jack now. They so whacked out and they got so much problems going on, don't make no sense. Anytime you got kids that going into school talking about they fur babies and you got to accommodate them, something wrong. Anytime you got somebody going into the school that's dressed in drag and they're going to read to your kids and they allow this, something's wrong, okay? If your
Meanwhile, we got the number one cause of death for kids is guns right now.
Exactly. But nobody wants to do anything about that. So your kid go to school and he's getting ready to go into junior high and he can't read. Heck, 5th grade he can't read because of some stupid reading program that they didn't put in place. Instead of just keeping everything basic and simple like it should be. Some stuff you don't really need to improve, maybe you need to tweak it, but some stuff you don't need to replace. You need to keep some stuff basic. Now, if you want to add something other than, then make it some kind of special program over here that you can apply for. But as far as the basic skills and basic things that you need to know to survive and live, you need to keep it that way. Our schools ain't teaching nobody nothing. And the only ones that's getting anything are the ones that's going through those advanced programs where everybody don't qualify for those advanced programs. So what happens to the kid back here that is just your average kid? What happens to him? Your average child, what happens to him? This child, he's good, he's smart, he can learn. He's not on no level. He ain't trying to be no engineer, nothing. He's just average child. What happens to the average child? So anyway, America, I've said enough. Quentin, you said you had anything to add?
No, I didn't. I don't.
So America, thank you. Thank you for hanging in there with us. And we ask that you would do us a favor. If you would like, share, leave a review, look in the descriptions. Our email is in there. Send us an email with your question, comments. We're going to have the link to those 2 videos in the description. I'll add it when it's just posted. Just look in the descriptions and you'll be able to see it down there. And wherever you're at, you can make a difference. Wherever you're at, whether you're here in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, anywhere you are, you can make a difference. Just like Quentin said, it's just about organizing and coming together and stop following these parties and these groups. Make a sound decision. Get somebody that you can back, that you know that's got some backbone and is really going to go in there to make a difference. And if you put enough of those people in, you'll start seeing something different. But right now, we got a mess. But again, America, we thank you, appreciate you. This is Jace Parker, along with my man, Quentin Williams. Quentin, have a good evening, sir.
Thank you, you as well.
All right, and we'll see you next time. And until then, as always, God bless America.